Number two, I think Barack Obama has earned a little benefit of the doubt. Now, that's not to say, again, you're not going to agree with them and everything, and you shouldn't be hesitant to disagree publicly, to fight, to push. At the same time, I don't think it's healthy to be on constant panic alert, to be constantly paranoid, to be looking for reasons to be upset with him, to jump the gun. Because, sometimes politicians have to be a little cagey. You're seeing this now in the Veep stakes jockeying. And I mentioned this briefly on the last show. The person who is picked as vice president has very little to do with how the president will actually govern. There are plenty of times in history where people who had differing positions on things were on a presidential ticket. The person at the top of the ticket sets the policy. But you're seeing now in some corners a presumption, well, if Barack Obama picks someone who is more conservative than he is or more conservative than you or I am, that is a signal of how he's going to govern that is worthy of our distress. Evan Bayh gets talked about in that way. Evan Bayh is probably one of the most conservative Democrats in the caucus. Tim Kaine, governor of Virginia, is getting a little bit of backlash. He ran as a fairly liberal, progressive guy for governor, hasn't governed as much in that way. Some environmentalists particularly talk about how he has pushed coal in Virginia, as opposed to Governor Kathleen Sebelius, who I certainly like very much to be vice president and arguably is my preferred choice. She probably ran more as a centrist in Kansas to be governor there, but has fought for certain liberal progressive principles such as fighting coal plants on environmental grounds and succeeded. But does that mean that if Obama picked Kaine and not Sebelius, that he's going to be a disaster on the environment? That does not logically follow. The vice president is the vice president, the second banana, the person who is going to salute and do what the guy at the top does. When Ronald Reagan picked George Bush, who ran a more moderate campaign in 1980 than Ronald Reagan did, it did not mean Ronald Reagan was going to govern as a moderate. It means he was trying to get moderates to support his conservative campaign. So when you see Barack Obama do something that on the surface doesn't look so hot, all I am saying is it is not necessarily the proper reaction to jump and to extrapolate and to spool out a worst case scenario of what that means. That doesn't mean you got to shut your mouth. Doesn't mean you got to be sheep. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't be organizing independently around these big issues, because whether you trust or distrust Barack Obama, having that organization is going to be extremely influential. When we have these big battles around global warming, around healthcare, around changing our foreign policy, ending the occupation of Iraq, he cannot do this alone. And we have a problem often, and we think that everyone's been dying for a charismatic guy to be at the top of the ticket for a long time. That doesn't mean you get to take a nap. Even the person with the greatest leadership skills and the greatest charisma needs help. And now we are in a critical time in the campaign. Now, if you don't like the guy, you don't like the guy. You want to vote for Ralph Nader or Bob Barr or Cynthia McKitty or John McCain, I'm just a schmo with a microphone. I do not tell you what to do. You tell yourself what to do. You have free will in a democracy. If you don't like the guy for whatever reason, that's your business. But deep down, if you really plan to vote for the guy, this is the critical time. After the conventions at the end of this month, between Labor Day and November, this is a team effort. Focus on the areas of agreement. Push as hard as you can. Make the clear contrast. So not only does your preferred candidate win, but wins with the proper mandate. If let's say he picks Evan Bayh, and all the chatter is not just from the mainstream traditional media pundits, but from us in the liberal grassroots as well, that this means Barack Obama is running to the right, and he wins, then all the commentary afterwards is going to be he won by running to the right, which is not going to be accurate. He is going to win, in my estimation, because he is offering a clearly distinct vision for America that is not the failed conservative vision of the last 8 years. that involves an active role of government, that involves guaranteeing health care for every American, that involves changing our energy policy away from propping up fossil fuels and towards investing in clean energy and having a cap and trade policy to reduce carbon emissions, to ending the occupation of Iraq, to having a diplomatic strategy with Iran. These are the key planks that are going to be the basis of his victory. And if we don't talk about that, if we don't acknowledge when Barack Obama talks about that, and he does on a regular basis, if we let that just be the 10th paragraph of his speech that you only can see on YouTube but is never talked about in the mainstream media, then we are not going to have as strong a mandate as we need to if we're going to win these battles after the 2008 election in 2009. That is our charge right now. This is game time. Time to put the game face on. Time to work in coordination. That doesn't mean suspending your independence. That doesn't mean you have to brook no dissent at any time. If you have disagreements, you should say so. But keep it in perspective. Keep your eye on the ball. And then we can win this November.